Hey guys, Solid here. Hope you're all doing well and welcome back to another monthly wrap up of adventure news. We've got plenty to talk about, including the new Yamaha Tenere 700 World Raid model that just released. We've also got a plethora of bikes from KTM, including the much anticipated 390 Adventure R. I've also wanted to talk about the Yezdi Adventure bike. If you're not familiar with that, stay tuned. Also got a few other bikes to discuss as well, so let's just get straight into it. So let's talk about the Tenere 700 World Raid. Clearly we get twin front tanks now giving us 23 litres of capacity and 500 kilometres of range. That is fantastic because here in Australia, for the long distance adventure rides, when you're leaving major cities and towns, so we're talking outback, there is an unwritten rule that you need at least 500 kilometres of range. The fact that Yamaha offers that kind of flexibility in its model range now, I think is a positive. Another thing that came out was that the wet weight of this bike is now 220 kilos. The other big key takeaways here is the upgraded suspension. This is fantastic. I know a lot of riders did say that the suspension was a little underwhelming when taking those big hits off-road. The other really nice addition that I really gravitated towards and thought was great was the addition of a steering dampener. I think this is fantastic, especially if you're someone that's doing deep sand. Having a steering dampener can be the difference between having a great day and a major tank slapper and flying over the handlebars. The two things I did really want to talk about here is one, the 220 kilos, and two, the price. Now let's start with the weight. The Tenere is kind of falling victim here to a lot of problems that the middleweight segment has had, is that it's putting on more weight as time goes on. We're not going the other direction, dropping weight. And that's what a lot of us want to see, is a lightweight, capable adventure bike. The other big thing I wanted to talk about is price. When I first rode the Yamaha Tenere when it came out here, it was listed on their website at the very start. It's somewhere around 15,500 Australian dollars. The last time I checked, it was in the 17,500 range, which I thought was a fairly big price hike. But a lot of you guys have pointed out, and I was unaware, is the current base model of this is $19,300. I mean, this is just crazy money for a middleweight bike. With all that's happened in the last 2 years, it makes sense, but it's still very hard to accept that it's so expensive. I'm really worried that we could see this well north of $22,000. And at that price, you really got to ask yourself, are you getting your money's worth? You're on parity with the KTM 890 Adventure, and you've got to start asking yourself, how much value am I getting here? And that is a very interesting question as well. It's very interesting to see how this new Tenere will be accepted if it does come to Australia and at the price we are concerned it's going to be released at. So I'd love to know your thoughts on the bike. I'm really enthused to see this leaked image of what could potentially be the KTM 390R. The crux of it is that this is a very early prototype, so early that they're still chopping and changing a lot of stuff. But what is encouraging is that 2118 front clearly looks like this is different suspension, at least up front, to the standard 390 Adventure. It also has a different swing arm, and it looks just to the eye test like it has more ground clearance. And there's a lot of features that look skinnier and like they're trying to go for a thinner profile as well. To my eye, this looks like a far more dirt-worthy version of the 390. At the moment, from those images, that certainly is a 390cc KTM engine with that single cylinder, the one exhaust pipe coming out. Now, it could be that KTM are doing the old switcheroo. 80% of me believes that this is the KTM 390 Adventure R, and 20% of me is worried that KTM are going to try and capitalize on the Enduro name and call this the 390 Enduro. I hope that doesn't happen, because if KTM were to make a 390 Enduro, I think they need to make a smaller version of the 690. The 690 Enduro, they're one of the best dual sports on the market. Making a smaller version where I can use the power and doesn't cost as much, to me just makes me so excited. What I see in that image is a very capable adventure bike. If they can save a little bit of weight here, increase the torque, because it really doesn't have much low-end torque at the moment. That was one of my criticisms. With those spoke 21/18 wheels, the extra clearance, better suspension and lighter weight, that would really be a game changer for a lot of people. That's what a lot of us are asking for, that we want this Swiss Army knife of a bike that can handle the highway, as well as having a bike that still is light enough. If everything goes to poo on the ride, you can get through it. I think this could be really exciting if this comes to pass. Of course, this is not for certain. This is a very early leaked photo. Nothing is confirmed here. We're only going off images, but I will be following this very closely. Sorry for the rant, but I'm just really looking forward to what this could potentially offer the market. Now there's two big things to talk about here. One is that the whole model line is getting a refresh, a nip and a tuck. The other big change here is that there's going to be an added model, an 890 Adventure S. The idea behind the Adventure S is that this is going to be more of a sport tourer. So this is going to be a heavily road biased model of the 890 Adventure. There are going to be changes on all of the models in the lineup. As you can see, the fairing has changed. The plastics now meet the windscreen there in the pictures. So they've also brought in the headlight. It's not sticking out anymore like a praying mantis. That's reportedly said to increase in wind protection, as is the fairing coming out like it is to meet the windscreen to offer more wind protection. Other changes are said to be a revised TFT screen. So now the base model 890 Adventure gets the higher mudguard like on a motocross bike. So I think that's pretty good that the base model can put much more aggressive tires on a bike with a higher mudguard. What's really interesting here is the marketing direction for this Adventure S. In my tiny little chimp brain, for me, I would think it would be smarter to term the base model Adventure as the most road focused, then the Adventure S as the intermediate of the bikes, and then the Adventure R as the most hardcore. But let's talk about this completely brand new model. It comes with 17-inch wheels front and back, so that's completely road focused. They're offering a model with the long leggedness of the Adventure, so you get the comfort of an adventure bike. So this could be a great tourer. Some people kind of poo-poo them because they think they're capitalizing on the Adventure name when they really can't get off-road. But that leads us down the dark road of semantics and what exactly constitutes adventure, and we don't have time for that crap. I'm just happy to see variety in KTM's lineup. The next bike is one that's heavily requested by my Indian viewers, and that's the Yezdi Adventure bike. And this, if you're not familiar with it, is competition to the Royal Enfield Himalayan. It's kind of obvious. They look almost identical. Now, it isn't entirely copied. There's a different motor on this bike and quite a few different components, but it is very much copying the styling aesthetics. This motor actually makes a little more power at just under 30 horsepower and makes roughly just under 30 Newton meters of torque. So it makes more power than the Royal Enfield, but it makes less torque. And the Yezdi is also liquid cooled. 188 kilos, 6-speed, 30 horsepower. There's a lot of things to like, and no doubt it's a fairly low price. But what I have been seeing in reviews is that the refinement isn't there compared to even the Himalayan. It'll be interesting to see what Royal Enfield do to answer this Yezdi Adventure bike that has come out. So I'd love to know your thoughts, especially the guys in India that have a much more nuanced understanding of this whole thing. Predictably, as I finished recording the video, I've done all my editing, and of course a news story drops. So let's get into it. Basically, GasGas has had a leak of 2 new models coming out. If you're not familiar with who GasGas are, they're a Spanish brand. They've really specialized in trials bikes, enduro bikes and MX bikes in the off-road racing world. They were bought out by KTM in 2019. So basically now they offer red KTMs, although they are slightly cheaper and they do have a few minor differences. These new models were discovered through the National Highway Safety Commission. There are 2 models listed there, the ES700 and the SM700. So what does this suggest? This is basically GasGas's version of the KTM 690 Enduro and the KTM 690 Super Motard. This is what we're seeing in these documents. This is kind of cool if you don't like the color orange and you want to save a little bit of money on a 690 brand new. I would absolutely love to see KTM really go whole hog into GasGas and offer some very different bikes to what they they offer in Team Pumpkin. So that brings us to the end of adventure news for February. If you want to see a specific video on that KTM 390 Adventure R, check out this video, and likewise for the Yamaha Tenere 700 World Raid. Thanks for sticking with me to the end. Don't forget to stay shiny side up, and I'll catch you in the next video. See you later, guys.